Could the Ravens actually get their hands on George Pickens this offseason to be the newest Baltimore Ravens wide receiver? Well, an NFL insider mentioned the possibility.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, and thanks so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We're 5 days a week here of daily Ravens coverage on Locked On Ravens, and we have a jam-packed show today. George Pickens of the Baltimore Ravens, could that actually be a possibility? Well, an NFL insider, he mentioned what it could potentially look like. We'll also talk about Travis Jones, his deal, a lot of details revealed there that were pretty wild. And then we'll also dive into the Ravens and Bengals, the Week 15 game between those two teams. That means a lot for both of them. So a lot to talk about here, and here to do it with me is, from the Ravens Talk podcast and the Locked On Ravens Squad show, Sam Njoku. Sam, there are always so many headlines this time of year, and obviously the Ravens are in the thick of it. Now, unfortunately, some of it is for the wrong reasons. Their year has not gone according to plan. But what's your vibe level on this team right now as we head into Week 15?
I'm still very optimistic about what this Ravens team can do. Of course, they have to get the win on Sunday against the Bengals, but even if they were to fall short and pick up 3 straight wins, I think that would be enough to get them in the dance, because I'm not trusting the Steelers. And as long as the Steelers are inconsistent, the Ravens still have a chance to get their act together. Now, optimism is a strange thing. It also can make you look like a fool. So the Ravens could make me look foolish if they weren't able to get the job done in the next couple of weeks. But I still like what I see from this team. I saw a lot of good things from this team against Pittsburgh, even though they fell short. They could build upon that. They could be in the dance and be a dangerous foe for the other teams in the AFC.
Sam, there are a lot of different moves the Ravens could make this offseason potentially. Obviously, whether it's signing their own guys like we've seen a couple times with Mark Andrews and Travis Jones, obviously, or, maybe signing guys from outside of the organization. And Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, there was an article, and the question was, what is one realistic offseason move that could help fix a fallen preseason favorite? And Jeremy Fowler mentioned the Ravens in the same conversation with George Pickens of the Dallas Cowboys, and said, quote, "The Chiefs and Ravens both need a classic boundary receiver on the outside and could address that with one big move in free agency." He said George Pickens would be a significant upgrade in Baltimore. And he also mentioned Alec Pierce, who would satisfy that need in Kansas City, I guess. And he says both would be costly, and Pickens might be franchise tagged by Dallas. But if available, the Ravens could use some of their $40 million in 2026 cap space on Pickens, knowing John Harbaugh is good at managing big personalities. Well, with that, what are your thoughts on George Pickens potentially coming to Baltimore? I personally do not believe this is realistic, but the fact that Jeremy Fowler even mentioned this is kind of wild to me, because this would have been like, I'd love it, but it'd be very far down on my list of realistic moves that the Ravens could make here. But man, imagine George Pickens and Lamar Jackson. That was the combo everybody wanted back in that draft class when they took David Ojabo. So what are your thoughts on the potential of George Pickens coming to Baltimore and how realistic it actually is?
I think it's not as unrealistic as many would think, to be frank. I think that the Ravens do need a receiver. Now, is that the reason why they're failing this year? No, not at all. But I think where this offense is going, or where I would like it to go, you're going to need a big-time boundary receiver. Rashad Bateman, great possession receiver. I know people think that he's a deep threat because of his route running capability, but he hasn't shown to be successful with the deep ball, hasn't been able to get that maturation connection with Lamar Jackson. I think this could be a move that the Ravens could make. Now, should that be their primary move? No. I think the Ravens need to understand that if they're going to make a move for that, that should not impede them from fixing the guard position at both sides of Linderbaum. But I would not be totally shocked that the Ravens make a move for George Pickens. I know the personality is a concern, how he affects the locker room is a concern. How would you think he will feel about getting 3 catches on 6 targets? I don't know, because we saw something similar to that with Pittsburgh. But if the Ravens can find a way to get things going, makeshift the offense, this offense, and that's probably a story for another day, needs a complete overhaul. They need to change the way the philosophy is with this team. The running game being the primary action. And if the running game doesn't get going, the entire offense goes apart. That can't happen anymore. I think we're done with that. But to my point, George Pickens, I think, will be a great piece. Do I think it happens? No. But I don't want to be surprised if it does. That'd be a little shocker, but I think it would be very good. It's a bonus, a boom for this Ravens offense for sure.
Yeah, shocker, it would be the right word. I mean, I'd love it, and I think he would immediately come in there and give the Ravens what they've been missing at that position. Not that Zay has been bad for them, but I just think George brings a different dynamic to that offense. But, I mean, it's crazy to even see the Ravens mentioned in that conversation, plus being mentioned in the conversation, again, because Dallas could franchise tag him, but with a $40 million plus per year receiver, and with the year Pickens is having, he is going to earn a hefty. I mean, that deal is going to be up there with Chase Jefferson. It's going to be up in that conversation, and it's going to be probably top 5, minimum top 10 wide receiver money. So a lot of avenues for Baltimore to improve their team this offseason. But again, if you can't block for your quarterback, there's not going to be a lot of time for them to throw the ball to a guy like George Pickens. So you need to address your trenches 100%. Travis Jones, great. They signed him to an extension. That's awesome. Then the next thought is, all right, what are the details? I look at the number and I'm like, no, there has to be some typo here, right? 3 years, $40.5 million. And so there is context, and we talked about it a little bit on the Instant Reaction show, but kind of diving into some more detail about it. So with Travis Jones, if everyone remembers the Rashad Bateman deal that happened, it was because there was an issue with the CBA and Rashad apparently not reporting or something along those lines. And his 5th-year option essentially was canceled because of it. And he was scheduled to hit free agency a year earlier. Now, Travis Jones doesn't have a 5th-year option because he wasn't a first-round pick, but there was an issue with Travis Jones and the CBA again. So I'm thinking, Sam, I'm like, one time with the CBA with a player, okay, I guess that happens. 2 times in a year, essentially. That's kind of crazy. So Jeff Zrebeck kind of detailed this and reported it out, where he only got 3 accredited years because of an issue with the collective bargaining agreement. He did not get an accrued season. So with only those 3 years, he was heading to restricted free agency in March, and that would have made it a lot easier for the Ravens to keep him and keep him at a much lower price than even he got here, because they would have used the second round tender potentially, just speculates, and that would have been in the neighborhood of about $6 million. So then the NFLPA, they filed a grievance on behalf of Travis Jones against the league and the Ravens, and that was actually expected to be heard yesterday morning. But Jones's agent, Jared Fox, as Jeff details in his article, and the Ravens hammered out the deal before the hearing, leading Travis Jones to end up dropping that grievance. So, I mean, that could have gone both ways, right? If Travis Jones had won it, more money for Travis Jones. If the Ravens had won it, less money for Travis Jones. Feels like this is probably somewhere in the middle, but kind of a crazy situation to happen twice in about a year for a team. And I mean, the Ravens, I think, do come out on top with it, but $40 million, nothing to scoff at for Travis Jones either.
Nothing to scoff at, but man, I was not expecting that number to be attached to Travis Jones. It's I'll be very interested to see or hear what the details of that CBA gaffe was. And again, I don't have the inkling of an idea of what the reason is. Sometimes I come on here and I kind of talk and have you guys read between the lines, and that means I have some information for you, but I truly do not understand or know what the situation is with this situation. But regardless, it's 3 years, $40.5 million. The Ravens win this for sure, get him on the contract. He doesn't have a lot of sacks. I mean, you and I talked before the cameras went on that he only has 5 sacks in his career, which is very surprising considering the upside that Travis Jones brings to that defense and the glowing remarks you hear from both players and the coaching staff. So the numbers aren't there for him right now, but he's such a great player. I mean, you see it on the football field. He is missing Nnamdi Madubuike, so the Ravens will need to pair him up with somebody, if not Madubuike on his return, then somebody else. But you got to love the fact that you're able to get this guy for under $50 million for a contract, and that's a huge boom for this Ravens offense. I mean, defense.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that his numbers definitely do go beyond the box score, but I was kind of floored. I mean, I found out during the live reaction I did. I'm like, wait a second, Travis Jones has more sacks than this, right? Jones has never had above 1.5 sacks in a season. Obviously, 2025 is not done yet, and he has tied his career high this season with 1.5 that he set back in 2023. But you mentioned it, with Nnamdi Madubuike not being there, Jones is getting a lot more attention. And, I think that with his ability as a run stuffer, his ability to win quickly, and I do think he still provides you pass rush value. He'll have the opportunity because he just turned 26 less than a couple months ago. He'll have the opportunity with this deal to hit free agency again before his age 30 season. He's under contract through 2028 now. And if he can get those sack numbers up, because I think a lot of it, Sam, like teams obviously take everything into account with guys, but sack numbers do drive contracts at that position, it feels like. And while it's not everything, with a guy like Travis, there's a lot of uncertainty on Baltimore's defensive line, to be honest with you. I mean, Project Washington, that whole situation didn't really work out. Obviously, with Nnamdi Madubuike, just hope he's okay from a human perspective. But, we still don't know anything about the Madubuike situation. And, John Harbaugh's declined to comment on it, and he doesn't have anything to tell us. So we don't really know what's going on with Nnamdi, whether he's going to be able to suit up and play again for the Ravens. And, other than that, I mean, John Jenkins, Brent Urban, those guys aren't long-term pieces. Aeneas Peebles, I love Aeneas Peebles, but he hasn't played a lot this season. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I just think it gives them a little bit of continuity, and they can breathe a little bit knowing that they'll have at least Travis Jones back for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that was it was almost imperative. I mean, not almost, it was imperative for them to bring Travis Jones back because there is a lot of question marks upon that defensive line. And during the offseason, the name of the game will be building this trenches for both the offense and defense. And on the defense, I believe Travis Jones was going to be a huge part of it. They can now focus on the edge, maybe get another interior pass rusher if they don't feel like Aeneas Peebles is a long-term or full-time solution on that regard. But they had to get Travis Jones on the contract. He is what will build the foundation for their defensive line. To get him for 3 more years, huge boost for this team. Unfortunately, there is that CBA gap that I'm sure Travis Jones and his agent aren't happy with. Neither is the NFLPA as they handle that grievance. But they were satisfied with the numbers enough where they dropped the case. And now it looks like we got Travis Jones for a few more years. Huge win. I can't say this overstated enough for this Ravens team.
And according to Jameson Ensley of ESPN in his article, apparently the reason was because of failing to report to training camp by the mandatory date, which stopped him from accruing that full season. And again, just to clarify, if that grievance Jones had and the NFLPA had failed, he would have been a restricted free agent in 2026. And apparently a source told Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the sides found a solution that was suitable despite the challenging circumstances. I mean, Travis Jones talked about it. Travis Jones was over the moon about it. I mean, it was really cool to see how excited he was about it. He talked about how much it's meant to him and his family. And, he wants to buy his mom a house. Like, he seems so grateful. And again, I'm sure this was challenging for Travis Jones. I'm sure it obviously was not ideal circumstances, but, he said, we just wanted to get the deal done. We got it at the right number. I'm happy we got it out of the way. So seeing how happy and how excited Travis Jones was about it. Again, $40 million, not a small, I mean, shoot, you can pay me $40 million. I'll go out there and play for the Ravens. Like it's a good number for Travis Jones. Again, not really what I was expecting. I was expecting him to get more. We're coming up in the second part of the show. We're going to be diving into a little bit more about this situation, who the Ravens have an updated free agent list of. Plus, we'll talk about Lamar Jackson denying the Daniel Falele report that came out over the course of the game in week 14. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Zocdoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using Zocdoc makes scheduling easier. Search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. No more back-and-forth phone calls waiting to be seen either, and it's super helpful for routine checkups and those little issues you've been meaning to get checked out. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. And the show is brought to you by Car Gurus. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. With Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut through all the noise. You can actually see the best deals on the cars you want, because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal. And Car Gurus makes that whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else, so you can shop the way you want. Use Car Guru's deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair. You'll love being able to filter by everything, mileage, trim, features, so you're only seeing the cars that actually fit what you need, and their price drop alerts are a lifesaver. You get notified the second a car you're watching becomes a better deal. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process with over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace. You'll always find the best deal. Shop the way you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you and with Sam Njoku as we're diving into Ravens content and coverage. Again, thanks so much for being here on this Purple Friday. Hopefully we can turn this Purple Friday into a Victory Monday, which they have not been able to do, this Ravens team, over these last couple of weeks. But Sam, continuing on, because it's always important. These deals are happening during the season, but we all know that this offseason is a very important one for the Ravens, regardless of how this season finishes. Still 4 games to go. Still an opportunity. I mean, the control your own destiny narrative has been very put out there by this Ravens team and John Harbaugh in particular. But, you know, the Ravens can't really do a lot in terms of getting talent in the building right now. I mean, they signed Laken Thomas into their practice squad and released Carl Lawson. But, like, again, that's not really a needle mover to me. There's a reason he was released by Houston. So at this point, you just kind of have what you have. But in the offseason, there's an opportunity to add. And like we talked about at the end of the first part of the show, they have an opportunity, I think, this season to make some things work for them if they can get the right extensions done. And actually, I do have an extension tracker here that I will pull up. I made this during the offseason and coming along decently nicely here where, you know, Derrick Henry, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Travis Jones, and Kyle Hamilton. That's 5 extensions out of your big guys. And look, I never expected Hamilton to leave the building. I thought Derrick Henry, I mean, he made it clear he wanted to be in Baltimore. Bateman and Travis Jones, we know the context behind those situations. And, well, I guess it's in that, yeah, with Andrews, it was going to be one of the two between Andrews and Likely. But, you know, still Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Marlon Humphrey, question marks, others as well, like a Jordan Stout, Chidobe Awuzie, et cetera. We'll have to see. Odafe Owe, the only one that has not gotten an extension to this point in the year. He's now in Los Angeles. But now you have an opportunity, Sam, to probably get a couple more guys under contract, or at least extension-wise. We know, I mean, I'd be floored if Lamar Jackson were to be moved on from at this point. I mean, there's practically a virtually zero chance at that. But I think a lot of people are talking about 2 names here, Zay Flowers and Marlon Humphrey. I'm not going to throw Linderbaum in this conversation because he's a free agent this season. With Humphrey and Flowers, those are 2 guys you have to wonder, how do the Ravens feel about them? We know the receiver market it's not going anywhere. It's only going up. And if Zay Flowers has his full 5th year out, I think we have to say a disclaimer now. If Zay Flowers has no CBA issues, he's going to be getting a contract that is up there. Meanwhile, for Marlon, the Ravens can save some money, and it's not a small amount of money if they cut him. I think it's $7 or $8-ish million without post-June 1. I think post-June 1, that climbs up to over 10, maybe even around $20 million. How do you feel about those 2 right now, Sam? Because maybe the deals, the money that they saved in the Bateman and Jones situations could go towards one of those 2 guys, but it feels like the fan base is kind of split right now on how to feel about Zay Flowers and Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on my line about those 2. My initial thought process with Marlon Humphrey was, this is probably his last year. I mean, he hasn't performed well as a corner, especially on the outside. He's been a liability. We saw that against DK Metcalf. We've seen that against Jamar Chase. He just doesn't have the speed to match up to what these other guys are bringing. And speed is the name of the game in the National Football League. Speed kills. We see that time and time again with these offenses. And if your top corner, supposedly top corner, isn't getting the job done on the outside, how much are you really investing in him strictly being an inside corner? Which is, you know, the name of the game, because you do have offenses move your receivers to the inside because there's a lot more room to work with if you get your best receiver on the inside. But what are you really doing here if you don't have the versatility to keep Marlon Humphrey on the outside and be effective? So my thought process is maybe this is his last year, but they could also transfer him to safety. I think he will be a great fit at safety. I think he's a guy that can transition very well. A lot of corners don't transition very well to safety from corner, but he does have that frame and that has the the smarts to be an effective safety. So we'll have to see what the Ravens decide to do with them. They already do have a lot of money tied in, a lot of draft capital tied in to the safety position. I'm not sure how much you can have one more safety, especially for Darius Washington also in need of a new contract. So we'll see where that goes. But Marlon Humphrey's a little bit of a question mark. Same thing with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is all about the money. The Ravens love him. Lamar Jackson loves him. I know Ravens fans are iffy on him, but he's a decent receiver. I say decent. That's a pretty weak word for what Zay Flowers is. I think he's a pretty strong receiver. Is he worth the $35 million a year, the $40 million a year that these top receivers are getting, and what he may get on the open market as well? I don't know if the Ravens see that, and I'm not sure if the Ravens have the space with all of the issues they have on the trenches to really give him that kind of capital. So if I were to guess if he's Zay Flowers stays or goes, I think this is probably his second to last year in the league. I mean, not in the league, with the team. I think after next year, I think he goes on to greener pastures. I don't think they give him a franchise tag. I think they'll let him test the waters. And if he gets that $40 million, I don't know if the Ravens match that. I think they can go back to the draft. For some reason, Eric DeCosta is really good at drafting receivers all of a sudden. You can find yourself a receiver out there, maybe bring in a receiver with more pedigree, more certainty, somebody that you can have on the outside and be successful more often than not, something that Zay Flowers hasn't really shown on a consistent basis. Really no receiver has shown to be consistent on this team. But I think $40 million pretty much prices him out. But never say never. If he has a fantastic year next year, then that changes. But the narrative right now for me would be that Zay Flowers probably has his last year in Baltimore next year.
And Zay has been, I mean, he has been their passing offense essentially this season. I mean, he's been unbelievable. I mean, he almost has 40 more targets than the next closest guy. He has 30 more receptions than the next closest guy. And that next closest guy is Mark Andrews, by the way. And he has almost, it is 550 more receiving yards. I mean, the discrepancy is wild. Zay has 891 yards. Mark Andrews is the next closest guy to him at 341. He has been their entire passing offense this season. Outside of touchdowns, Zay only has 1 touchdown this season. Mark is their touchdown leader with 5. But you'd have to replace that production somewhere. You mentioned if they did move on from him, going back to the draft, finding that guy in the first or second round, potentially, maybe signing a guy. But, you know, with Marlon, it is intriguing because, you know, it might just be they have to choose between Chidobe Awuzie and Marlon Humphrey. It might just be, you know, because I think Awuzie is going to get a decent deal. We also know they love investing in the secondary. So if there's a guy that they like, we know they're going to take him, and they've had success doing that. So those are 2 guys you have to wonder about. But in terms of free agents that are going to be free agents in 2026, coming up in a few months after this season is over, some notable guys include Tyler Linderbaum, Isaiah Likely, Daniel Falele, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Stout, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Ricard, Darius Washington, Draymond Jones, Kyle Van Noy, Charlie Kohler, Keaton Mitchell's going to be a restricted free agent. You also have other guys as well on that list, like a Tylan Wallace, et cetera, John Jenkins. But outside of the 2, because I think that in an ideal world, they would bring back Tyler Linderbaum and Isaiah Likely, but, you know, feels like it's only going to be one of them. Yeah. Are there any other guys on that list that you're like, the Ravens need to bring this guy back? It is important. It is imperative, and they need those guys.
No, I don't think there's anybody on this list that you need to bring back, especially because, again, the trenches have been such a problem for this team. And every bit of capital you spend elsewhere makes it less likely that you get somebody dominant enough for them to make a real difference in 2026. Now, are there guys that I would like for them to bring back who I think they probably will bring back? Yeah, I think Jordan Stout's a guy that most likely they will bring back. I think our Darius Washington, because of his injury, probably won't get the amount of money that, you know, you think outside of that, given what his talent is. He does have 4 weeks plus, depending on what they do in the postseason, to turn that around. I think that's part of the reason why he came back so quickly, to put something on tape for other teams in case he gets that contract that he's looking for. But I think our Darius Washington, Patrick Ricard, Jordan Stout, most likely Chidobe Awuzie, maybe Draymond Jones comes back. Charlie Kohler, luxury item. We'll love to get him back. Maybe, maybe not. But I think guys like Isaiah Likely's probably not going to come back. I think Daniel Falele isn't going to come back. You never know. They brought back Ben Cleveland, so who knows what they do with that. But I think Daniel Falele, Isaiah Likely, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Noy, those are the 4 that I think are most likely gone. Draymond Jones, maybe you can get him back, but I think he might be getting some kind of pressure outside of the Ravens, so they'll let him test the waters as well. But outside of that, I think that you need to look outside of this organization to find some talent and through the draft. And I know the draft is where, Eric DeCosta loves to look at, but you really do need to trust free agency to get some guys in the trenches, edge rushers, interior guards, whatever it takes to transform this unit, because both of those units have been pretty poor this year.
Yeah, they have been. Now, again, I think I don't want to go through the whole punter situation with Jordan. I mean, we're just getting to the good stuff with Jordan. I'm like, all right, we can't just get to the good stuff and then move on and then, have to get into. So I would love it if they brought back Stout. But, at the end of the day, I think that for Baltimore, getting Linderbaum back is huge for me. Obviously, I want Likely back as well. But, I mean, out of those two, I'd probably assume that with the Andrews deal, they would choose Linderbaum. But, I mean, I guess we'd have to see, because it is a very intriguing situation nonetheless. But cut up with the final part of the show. We'll talk a little bit about the Ravens and Bengals game. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way here on this edition of Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, in Georgia. PrizePicks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. You can choose from a huge range of unique stats: fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, whatever fits your strategy. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's go to LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Allstriker and Sam Njoku still rocking out with you here, talking Ravens football, as we do on this show. And Sam, talking a little bit about this Cincinnati Bengals game. We know what happened the first time. It wasn't pretty for this Baltimore Ravens team. They're looking to bounce back. They're going to have to play that duo of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow at least. And I mean, for T. Higgins, it's a situation that a lot of people are monitoring, but T has been practicing. So we are going to see about that. But how are you feeling about this matchup? I think it's really interesting, because at the end of the day, the Ravens need this win. So do the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals are probably already eliminated after losing to Buffalo, but, they're not going to just roll over and give up. They're going to have to go out there and perform. So the Ravens have to match that energy, because these are two high-powered offense when they're at their best, but it only feels like one of them is playing right now at that potential, and that is the Bengals.
Yeah, you're actually the one that kind of gave me a little bit of hope, believe it or not, from the squad show.
Let's go.
If you guys didn't tune into the squad show, Kevin gave a very intriguing case for why the Ravens may have a chance, and I think it's because the Ravens have some stellar tight ends. And the Ravens, even though they lost pretty badly to the Bengals on Thursday, they had 5 turnovers. The Ravens are going to turn the ball over 5 times, knock on wood. I don't see it happening. So the Bengals defense is going to have to do their job to stop these guys from making plays. They can't just count on the fluky turnover to get things going. So I think in that regard, the Ravens offense matches up very well against this Bengals defense. It's the Bengals offense that should have Ravens fans concerned. It's the Bengals offense that should have you sleepless on Saturday night waiting for that Sunday matchup, because Joe Burrow looks like he's Joe Burrow. I mean, we've seen Patrick Mahomes struggle this year. You've seen Lamar struggle this year. We've seen Josh Allen struggle a little bit this year. Joe Burrow has been Joe Burrow. I mean, even though he was out for 9 weeks, Joe Burrow came back and he's been the same guy that we've seen these last 3 or 4 years with the Bengals. And that matchup between Jamar Chase and the Ravens DBs is going to be the story. T. Higgins dealing with that concussion. He was limited in practice on Wednesday and Thursday, so we don't know what happens today. We'll find out whether or not he practices or whether or not he's activated for the concussion protocol. You think if he has 2 big concussions in back-to-back weeks, the Bengals would err on the side of caution, especially considering that they're pretty much out of the postseason. But the Bengals want to give the Ravens the exit. I think this win by the Bengals potentially would do that for the Ravens, and I know if the Ravens were to beat the Bengals would be mathematically eliminated officially from the postseason. So there is some reason to try his best to get out there, but you got to put the players' health first. If T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are both out there, it's going to be tough for this Ravens defense because they're not able to get to the quarterback at all. And I think the game plan going into this one, similar to last week, is to not blitz as often, not blitz as many guys. The Bengals did a really good job at catching the blitz 2 weeks ago. So the Ravens may need to take the approach of, let's just put 7 guys back there to cover these receivers. Hope that the 4 do enough to give Joe Burrow fits. I know Joe Burrow liked to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than usual, which is why the Ravens were very tempted to blitz, but that didn't work on Thursday 2 weeks ago, and I don't think it will work on Sunday. So that's the base of it. The Ravens offense versus the Bengals defense. Ravens better put points on the board because the Bengals are going to put up at least 30. The Ravens will need to put up at least 31.
Yeah, I hope. Can we not do the thing this time, Ravens, where you make the Bengals defense look like the 2000 Ravens defense? I mean, 5 turnovers, right? That's the thing. And Lamar talked about, obviously, that's the big storyline. But red zone. The Ravens are 30th in the NFL in the red zone this season. They were the best red zone offense in the league last year and 7th in the league in Monken's first season in 2023. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the offensive line, poor execution, weird play calling. But again, if you can't keep up with this Bengals offense, it doesn't matter how bad the defense is. And right now, both teams have something to play for. It's a little bit different, but both teams are fighting to stay alive in the playoff race. Cincinnati, you mentioned mathematically, like, yes, they have to, where meanwhile, Baltimore can get away with a loss here or there, but not in this game. You can't lose another divisional game here. You can't have that record drop to 2 and 3 with just that Pittsburgh game remaining. So, I mean, Sam, what's your thought process? And if you have any predictions on, do you feel like the Ravens offensive line can finally get it going against this Bengals defense? Do you feel like that the Ravens defense maybe can finally hold Jamar Chase in check for the first time since Brandon Stevens did it a couple of years ago? I mean, what's your gut feeling here? And it can't, if they lose, they lose. But maybe that hope I gave you is sparking something where do you think they pull out a dominant win here? Or do you think it's going to be down to the wire either way?
I got to tell you, I am feeling more confident, as I mentioned, that this Ravens team can actually win the game. I mean, a couple of days ago, I was like, the Bengals offense is just going to be too much for this defense, but the Bills gave the blueprint for how to handle the Bengals. And I think every team is given the blueprint for how to handle the Bengals, but the Bills especially because they run the ball very similar to what the Ravens do. And the Ravens have a better defense than the Bills defense. So I think the Ravens can use that, run the ball. They were successful a little bit against the Steelers. And I think the Bengals are way worse against the run. If you don't trust the mechanics of what Lamar Jackson is doing out there, you want to give him time in the pocket, run the football, be effective, use those tight ends. The Bengals can't cover a tight end to save their life. I mean, literally, if their lives were on the line to stop a tight end, they couldn't do it. They'd be on life support. It's that type of defense that the Ravens are going against. So big game potentially for Isaiah Likely. Hold on to the ball this time, buddy. Big game for Mark Andrews. Hopefully he gets more than one catch. Big game for Charlie Kolar. Maybe he gets a shot to do it, but I'm starting to feel good about this. If T. Higgins doesn't play, I feel even more confident. I think the Ravens win a shootout. Give me the Ravens 35-30. I think the Ravens get it done and then pull to 500 with a chance to go above 500 against the New England Patriots.
Sam, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping in here. On the way out, be sure to tell everybody where they can find you and what you're working on.
Find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Ravens Talk Podcast, Talking Ravens Football. We'll have a show after the Ravens and Bengals matchup. Hopefully, positivity across the board if they get the job done. You can also find me right here on the Locked On Network with the Locked On Ravens Squad Show with myself, Kevin, and Kadri Ismail talking Ravens football. Got a show on Sunday after the Ravens-Bengals game, and of course on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m., so make sure you tune in for that.
A lot of work Sam is doing. He's everywhere. Be sure to support him, follow him, and check him out everywhere. Links will be in the description down below. Sam, I appreciate you as always. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened today to Locked On Ravens. Coming up, I mean, there are headlines all across the board, probably a bonus episode tomorrow, but we will see what the headlines bring us. And then, of course, we'll have our game day content throughout the course of the rest of the weekend. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.